in search of the ultimate goal of life, from handwritten documents of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter number 16, Aftermath and Epilogue. Lord Chaitanya thus enjoyed the company of Ramananda Roy while discussing about Sri Krishna continuously for 10 days. Those conversations that took place between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya were very, very confidential talks about Vrajadam, the place where the transcendental pastimes of Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna are eternally manifest. And in those conversations, the ecstasy that flows in Vrajadam was thoroughly discussed. And there were also many other talks between Ramananda and Lord Chaitanya, which are impossible for anyone to understand. In short, the whole topic was just like a mine of gem-like information, which produced one gem after another for the benefit of all humankind. The mine of that conversation is compared to an unfathomed deep metallic reservoir. And as the mine was being excavated, precious metals of different categories came out in the form of copper, bell metal, silver, gold, and lastly touchstone. Precious metals were excavated both in the preliminary as well as in the concluding discussions between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya. In the preliminary talks, in search of the ultimate goal of life, the idea of following the moral and social divisions of society is compared to copper, the mother of all metals. The idea of offering the results of one's work to Sri Krishna, known as Karma Yoga, is thus compared to bell metal. The idea of renouncing the world and taking karma sannyas is compared to silver. The idea of devotional service mixed with empiric speculative knowledge, which is known as Jnana Misra Bhakti, is compared to gold. And lastly, devotional service unmixed with any empiric knowledge, called Jnana Shunya Bhakti, is compared to touchstone. In the concluding discussions, the same comparison is made in regard to the different transcendental sentiments of devotional service. The conception of Dasya Prem is compared to copper, Sakya Prem to bell metal, Vatsalya Prem to silver, and Madhurya Prem to gold. And lastly, the transcendental pastimes of Sri Sri Radha Krishna are compared to touchstone. Entrance into the above-mentioned touchstone of Jnana Shunya Bhakti can be obtained by the persevering devotee who has the necessary energy, fortitude, good association, and honesty of purpose. And with all these necessary qualifications, that touchstone is easily available. The next day, Lord Chaitanya asked permission from Ramananda Roy to continue on his tour of South India. The Lord also requested Ramananda to follow this instruction, advising him as follows: please go to Nilachala, Jagannath Puri, resigning from your worldly activities, for I will arrive there very shortly after finishing my tour. We shall stay at Nilachala together and pass our time in great happiness by our talks about the transcendental pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Saying this, Lord Chaitanya embraced Ramananda and sent him home. And then Lord Chaitanya himself went to take rest for the night. After the departure of Lord Chaitanya, Ramananda was overwhelmed with grief on account of separation from the Lord, and thus he remained aloof from all sorts of routine work while continuing to absorb himself in deep meditation upon the Lord. Thus, I have given a short sketch of the meeting that took place between Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The instructive and transcendental topics that were discussed between them are completely sublime and simple at the same time. And any fortunate person can take advantage of the revelations within this conversation and thus bring about the perfection of his or her life. Once the topic is heard with a reverential attitude, it will no longer be possible to leave aside the spiritual ambition of reaching the abode of Radha and Krishna. And by hearing this short narration, one can enter into the essence of transcendental romance and pure love of God. And the most important thing to understand from this discussion is the secret of Lord Chaitanya's appearance in this world and the essence of his Sankirtan movement. Only the faithful can enter into the intricacies of these topics, and faith is the basic principle for making progress in the supramental state of transcendental love in separation. The Leela of Radha and Krishna is both transcendental and confidential. One who has faith in Lord Chaitanya and his recommended process for spiritual upliftment can enter into the confidential service of the divine couple, Radha and Krishna, which is all attractive for the pure devotees. It must be understood that the talks between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy are not a creation of mental speculators who are not in the transcendental chain of disciplic succession and who are therefore always doubtful about the absolute truth. Nobody whose basic tendency is to engage in mundane arguments can even enter the precincts of these topics, for they are above such a materialistic approach. Because the subject matter is supra-mundane, it is therefore not possible to understand it without having reached the supra-mental state. Nobody need try to understand these transcendental topics by strenuous academic manipulation of the brain and the mind, because both the mundane brain and mind are useless when attempting to reach this supra-mental state. Only service to Godhead and his agents can help one to experience the revelation of the truth. Mental speculation, which produces only pseudo-results, simply creates a disturbance. The transcendental domain discussed by Sri Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya is solely the property of those faithful devotees of Sri Krishna who have a record of service in devotional life. All glories to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda Prabhu, along with Sri Advaita Prabhu and all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya who are known as the Ghora Bhaktas. Lord Chaitanya, by the disc weapon of his exclusive mercy, delivered the inhabitants of South India, who were situated like elephants being attacked by the crocodiles of different religious sects. Thus, Lord Chaitanya converted them all to Vaishnavism and proceeded onward throughout South India, where he visited many holy places of pilgrimage. All glories to my ever well-wishing spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his Sankirtan movement. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.